Mardy Fish. Those of you are probably looking at that name like, Anuj, did you just make up that name? No, it's a name of a real person, and it's a name of a real tennis player, uh, a real athlete. So I'm a big Netflix content consumer. Anything Netflix drops like that's semi interesting, I will watch. And Netflix recently dropped a documentary on American tennis and on Mardy Fish and his mental health struggles. So a lot of people way back, like 4 months ago, when the Naomi Osaka miniseries dropped, were super excited because she was trending in the news, and there's whole mental health thing had just happened. They thought that they were going to cover Naomi based on that. The Naomi Osaka miniseries, in hindsight, compared to this Mardy Fish series, was peanuts. It sucked. It was awful. It was not very, very good. It was not very good. That's why you haven't heard a lot of people be like, oh my God, yes, Queen at Naomi Osaka on Twitter. That's why, because the piece was frankly not that good. It's very middle of the pack, okay, compared to some of the other pieces I've seen on athletes. This Mardy Fish piece is an 11 out of 10. It's fantastic. It's so good. I saw it in the first day. Like, I was like, oh my God, like that was, I mean, it's an hour and 11 minutes. It's really worth the watch, particularly if you're into sports. It is 100% worth it, in my opinion, to watch. It basically talks about how it talks about American tennis and the pressure that Americans face to be the American number one, which basically means you're the number one ranked tennis player out of all of the United States of America. So like you're the best tennis player in the U.S. essentially is what that means on either the men's or the women's. And it talks about this guy Mardy Fish, who was a American tennis player who was kind of just an average American tennis player for a while. He was on the professional tour. He would just kind of he was decent. He was okay. He wasn't anything like crazy. He wasn't the GOAT or anything. But at the age of 29, he decides to make a career transformation because he wants to give it a shot and he doesn't want to regret his tennis career. And so basically it takes you along that whole journey, which culminates in this whole anxiety episode, which they talk about. And they basically talk about like the anxiety that he faced on court and all of these various elements that he was battling mentally, along with trying to be one of the best tennis players in the world and achieving those goals. The piece is really, really good. They interview Mardy. They, interview Andy Roddick, who is one of the other main great American players in that era. They interview Mardy Fish's wife, trainer, all of that. It's a really, really good piece, and it really takes you inside the mind of an athlete. It's what I hoped the Naomi Osaka piece would be. They just do a really, really good job, I feel like. They really cover the whole story. They talk about all the tennis academies in the United States. And it's about athletes and mental health. And it's just a story that didn't necessarily get the coverage that it should have at the time. Because back in 2016, when the piece first came out about Mardy Fish and anxiety, it was way ahead of its time. Frankly, in 2016, we weren't talking about mental health. When that piece came out, we weren't talking about, like the mental health of athletes. This Naomi Osaka has moved that conversation, and I give her credit for that. And now this piece in 2021, when it dropped, totally fits in with the time. And it kind of made me realize that like Mardy Fish is a pioneer of mental health and of saying it's basically okay to give up on your dreams if you are feeling inferior, or if you are feeling like you are going to what's it called, just like harm yourself. And it's a really, really awesome piece. There's not much more I can say about it. I would recommend it to non-sports fans. I'd recommend it to sports fans because they do a really good job of filling you into the background. But if you're a tennis fan, this is a must watch. Like, this is absolutely a must watch. They talk about all of these, American tennis figures who I grew up watching. I was a big tennis fan for a long time. I still am. So it was really cool to be able to see everybody, all your old idols kind of talk and discuss in this documentary about their mental health and about their struggles. And I think the story has a really happy ending too. So I was really happy about that element of it. So yeah, I would definitely recommend this piece. I think it's called Unspoken or Untold. And you can just search up Untold Mardy Fish. It'll come up on Netflix. 100% worth the watch. Mardy, I just want to say, if you ever see this, like, thank you, man. Like, you really move the conversation before we even knew that you moved the conversation. And that's something that I don't think you're going to get credit for, unfortunately, because that's a society we live in and everyone's just going to talk about Naomi. But you brought the conversation to the table, and this piece is bringing that conversation back. So thank you. And I really respect you for that, man. So shout out to Mardy Fish.